This is not a time for platitudes and personal musings, veiled critiques. We have to speak about what's happening in plain language so people understand it. This isn't 2012. This isn't 2008. Those days of political platitudes are over. People need to fully understand what's happening right now. You have Democrats being arrested, being indicted, being detained, politically assassinated in a week. There are tanks rolling down the streets of our cities. There are active duty Marines on the streets of our cities. Donald Trump is tearing up the Constitution and throwing it away and spitting in our faces. So we can't sit here and be polite anymore. You can be peaceful, but the righteous anger of the American people needs to be harnessed in a way for people to understand what's at stake. And for someone like President Obama, who has so much influence and respect of millions of Americans, this is not a time to be cautious. I mean, he needs to take from the page of Winston Churchill. No, I'm sorry. He is in a position to speak plainly to the American people. You know, Winston Churchill said there is no time for ease and comfort. It's time to dare and endure. That is the position we are in right now as a country. And I would like for Democratic leadership to speak a lot more seriously and plainly about what's at stake here.
Now, let me just say this. Y'all know I'm here to be critical of anybody and everybody if they deserve it. But it is not on, in my opinion, humble opinion, it is not on Barack Obama to clean up the mess that America has made. Chuck Schumer needs to be a little more clear, a little more forceful.
Agreed.
Hakeem Jeffries needs to be a little more clear and a little more forceful.
Agreed.
Barack Obama could have said nothing because he did his duty for 8 years and then got out there on the campaign trail after that and then got out on the campaign trail after that again. His family has been put in the crosshairs. Like, I don't think it's on, to be very clear, the first black president to clean it up.
I'm not saying it's on him, but if he's going to stick his neck out and put his toe in it, then you need to go all the way in. Like, he's in a position where people are looking, especially the Democratic Party, because of the failure of leadership by so many others who are currently in office, as you named. Now Barack Obama's out there, and he's got the opportunity, he's got the platform. If he steps up to the plate, then you know what? Maybe others will say, well, listen, if President Obama can do that, maybe I can too. There needs to be some intestinal fortitude here in this moment that we're in. We can't keep having strongly worded letters from Democratic leadership when we've got tanks rolling down the streets of our country.
I think you did. I will just say, if we're calling for President Obama, I would like to see President George W. Bush.
I agree,
because
and I've said the same.
There are Republicans in this country who have not had the courage that Michael Steele has had.
Well, I think
no argument for me on that. We were talking about President Obama. But believe me, somebody posted something recently on social media about President Bush, and I said, where the hell has he been? He should have come out and spoken very forcefully the way he did, at least in 2020, when all the presidents got together. That's great. He's been AWOL since. He's another one. And all the other Republicans, too, that the ones that are elected in particular, who complain in the Senate dining room or in the Senate hallways to each other, but won't do it publicly, the same applies to them. Now's the time to speak up. But we were just talking about President Obama coming out, so that's why I said what I said about him.
Let's take a listen to what Brad Lander had to say today about authoritarian overreach.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has described it as they are trying to liberate cities from their elected officials. But what that means to me is they are trying to wreck the rule of law. I mean, this is how we work. We elect people to lead. And what Trump wants to do is stoke conflict, instill fear in these families, and figure out how far they can push an authoritarian overreach. We're not going to let Donald Trump and Pam Bondi liberate America from democracy.
Okay, so to weave together a few different parts of our conversation, specifically the one Simone and Tara were just having, what's it going to take for Republicans to care about this? Is it going to require a Republican being detained in order for Republicans on Capitol Hill to begin caring about this?
Well, let me give you some hope. I think throughout American history, we've often thought it's going to come, the resistance to threats to democracy, from Congress or from the courts. And while they have sometimes played the role, and we have had bipartisan moments, for instance, in the Nixon impeachment, they come at the behest of citizens more often. And that's where the hope comes from. I'm not looking to our politicians. I'm looking to the No Kings rally, for instance, from this past weekend. I'm looking from the many people throughout the country who are realizing this is a threat to democracy because they're seeing firsthand the shutdown of non-citizens' rights, the denial, actually, by this administration of the very fact that non-citizens have a First Amendment entitlement to free speech, the denial of due process in deporting Venezuelans to a literal gulag in El Salvador with not allowing any oversight. As Americans see that, and as the viewers of this program see it, they are starting to stand up. We had millions of people, in contrast to the very small rally that Trump held for his birthday, this wannabe authoritarianism rally. We saw millions of people come out, and they are saying a simple thing and saying no kings. It's such a brilliant slogan because it's standing for the anti-tyranny principle at the heart of our Constitution, and that's a demand for our democracy. So it's actually going to be the citizens that lead. And when that happens, I expect that we'll see more of Barack Obama. Maybe we will even see the Bush family speak out. And it's not going to come from them. It's going to come from the citizenry. And frankly, it's happening already. We're not much past 100 days, and the resistance is getting strong and is going to increase.
All right, so I want to take, Tara, what Corey just said and sort of box it. We've got less than a minute left. So here's the deal. Corey just went where I have been for the past year, and that is at the end of the day, a former fill-in-the-blank or even a current fill-in-the-blank elected official, that's not the play. The play is the people. And so while you do the No Kings today in 2025, right? The question is, how does that translate to the ballot box in 26? How do you sustain that? Is it going to be the compounding of aggressive, anti-democratic, authoritarian behavior by the president and his ilk? How do you translate that for people, and how do people translate that energy that we're seeing right now? Because 10 million people sat on their behinds in 2024. And did not vote, who did vote in 20, but in 24 didn't think it mattered as much because the price of eggs, whatever excuse they had or reason they had. How do you sustain that going into this upcoming cycle?
You have to make people understand what they're fighting for and why it matters. That's why we started the Seneca Project a year ago. It was to explain to women what was at stake and to explain why it was important to preserve our democracy. And that's what needs to happen now. We were out there. We were one of 200 partner organizations out there in the streets. We were in Philly on Saturday at the No Kings rally because it was so important for people to see that it is the power of the people. We, the people, are the only ones who are going to save us. We've said this for a year. And the way you do that is by narrative setting now. You explain it now. There is no off year. They are marching forward. The enemies are marching forward. They don't stop. We can't either. So you take that, you harness that energy, and courage is courageous. So the more that people see what's at stake, what's happening, how it's impacting their lives, we're facing some unprecedented things in this country. Right. That will continue on into the midterms as long as you stay on offense. Set those narratives, put them on defense, make these MAGAs explain what they're doing, and remind people that what's happening isn't partisan. What's happening to constitutional rights in this country should not be a partisan issue. People losing their benefits, veterans losing their benefits, farmers losing their farms, people being snatched off the street. These should not be partisan issues. The Constitution is not a partisan document. It's for everyone, we the people. And that's the way you frame it so people understand what's at stake. Because if they don't, you're not going to fight for something you don't understand why it's of value to you.
All right, we the people, get on up. Come on now.